more importantly, 0 turnovers. That's what got us the dub for big fourth quarter. We can build on that. We don't want to dig ourselves a hole like that again, but it builds character. Coming back from 21 down.
That's how you do that. That's how you finish the game the right way.
My 4 years being here, this is probably one of the most resilient teams, that I've been on.
Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Sewell is back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. What a game tonight, man. Hawks complete their biggest comeback of this season, coming back against the Bulls, having a 50-point fourth quarter to beat the Bulls 141-133 in a game that really tested you as a fan. I'm sure the Bulls felt like they had an answer to everything tonight, but the Hawks just kept fighting, and just competitiveness and energy really carried this team when they needed it most, especially from the first overall draft pick, Zachary Risacher. So we're going to talk about that, the comeback, everything that happened during this game tonight. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of Believe in Hawks. Before we get into that, obviously, guys, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. If this is your first time watching Believe in Hawks, if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment on any discussion points that we have during this episode. Also, same thing for my audio listeners as well. Leave a rating, leave a review, tell your friends about Believe in Hawks, a growing Hawks podcast in the community, in a great community of content creators that cover the team. So obviously, I appreciate you guys. And obviously follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Bricey_2K, BRICEY_2K. But yeah, tonight was a roller coaster. I always say every team has that one roller coaster, just insane win. Hawks had a couple of those last year. This is the one this year for the Hawks. Just this game was the epitome of well, let me lay it out to you like this. Obviously, the Hawks have not won a game against the Bulls before tonight. In both of those games, the Bulls pretty much have handled the Hawks. They've pretty much, offensively especially, been able to get what they want against the Hawks, and they've been able to beat the Hawks. And the Hawks were not able to get enough offensively that they needed and get enough stops. And, coming into this game, it looked like it was going to be a repeat of that. I had mentioned during this game, it kind of reminded me of Indiana last year, where it just felt like we cannot guard this team for some reason. The only difference is Indiana was a good team last year. Chicago, with their record, you look at them and think they're not a good team, but they can score the ball. The thing is, they're just not really good defensively, right? And tonight, it was just one of those things. I mean, think about how the game started tonight. You had Javon Carter, who averages like 2 points a game, hit like 6 threes in the first quarter. It is just one of those games as a fan that you're looking at and thinking, here we go. Some player that hasn't done anything all year will just destroy us, and then they'll be the reason why they win this game. I believe Javon Carter matched his season high in a game, I think, which was 10 points in the first half. I mean, not the first half, but the first quarter. So, literally, it's like it just was a game where it was just like, God, and the Hawks were down early, right? Lost the first quarter 33-21. Second quarter was a much more even quarter, 32-31. But obviously you're down if you're the Hawks, so you're trying to make up ground. That's the biggest thing. The Bulls have led in a majority of games, I felt like, with the Hawks. I believe the first game we led, then they came back. Second game, they pretty much led. This game, we really never led outside of that first stretch of play. We were up 9-2, and then Bulls just went on this run and just led, right? And so you're trying to crawl back into the game, and stuff. And so, in the first half, I really felt like even with Javon Carter going crazy, I thought like the offense was letting them down in the first quarter because it was like they were missing a lot of shots. They weren't shooting well. They were shooting close to 30% in the first quarter. So I was thinking, all right, you need a little bit more offense, right? So second quarter, they got better offense. They just couldn't get any stops. They just couldn't get any stops. That allowed them to cut into the lead. And if they were able to cut into the lead, it feels like every time the Bulls would take that timeout, they'd come back out and then just get that lead right back. So it was tough. And then the third quarter happened, and the Hawks played one of their best offensive quarters, right? 38-point third quarter. You're thinking, all right, we've had a pretty good third quarter. They allow 44. And you're just like, Jesus. Like, even when we're offensively clicking, we still can't even keep up ground on this team. And it was just one of those teams where, like I said, it tests you as a fan. It makes you think there's no way we're going to beat this team because they're making every shot. And even in the fourth quarter, they started that fourth quarter on a run, cut it down, and then Zach LaVine got going in the second half, and then he also got going in the fourth, and he was just like, okay, Zach LaVine's hot. They've got the lead back up, right? It looks like we're cooked. It looks like we're done. It looks like we don't have a chance. It just was one of those things where you just kind of felt like we're not coming back. And then the Hawks were down 124-107 with 6:20 left in the fourth quarter. And like I said, you see a score like that, you're probably thinking this game's cooked, done. We're done. The Hawks in the next 4 minutes. In the next 4 minutes and 20 seconds, had a 130-126 lead. Hawks went on a 23-2 run in 4 minutes to take the lead. And like I said, that was incredible to watch. Trae Young was a big catalyst to that run. He pretty much took over in that stretch run right there to get them to that point where they could do that. Like, let me see if I have it right here. But basically, like, he had a big fourth quarter. He did what he needed to do. Jalen Johnson, he has a mismatch in this game because the Bulls can't defend Jalen Johnson. So he had a huge game. Trae Young had a three-pointer, Dyson three-pointer, Trae Young floater, Trae Young hits 2 free throws, Hunter three-pointer, Trae Young three-pointer, Jalen Johnson two-pointer, and that's when they took the lead. So you had contributions from everybody out there. Dyson hitting a big shot, Trae hitting a few big shots, Jalen getting a big shot, Hunter hitting a big shot, and then you were able to create turnovers. You were able to defend, because that was really the big issue with this game. The Hawks just felt like they couldn't get stops. If they could get stops, they could get back into the game. They just couldn't get stops. Their offense was going. And they finally had a stretch where they could get it going, and they got stops. You do realize from that 6:20 mark, they had 124 points Chicago. They finished with 133. They scored 9 points the rest of that game. 9. That's incredible to have that type of defensive intensity, which is something the Hawks have hanged their hat on this season, is the defensive end of the ball. And for them to be able to be disruptive, get turnovers, and get back into the game was huge. And a big reason why the Hawks were able to do this is Zachary Risacher. I want to give the Rook some love real quick, man, because, Risacher hasn't had the best offensive year, right? Like, it's been a journey for him offensively. There are games where he does give you nothing. It's sometimes it's ugly. And there's times where, with the Knicks game where he played really well offensively. And then there's been games where it's like, he like I said, he gets a lot of sneaky points, a lot of sneaky buckets, a lot of sneaky baskets. And, he's always contributed to this team outside of scoring the basketball. But tonight, he contributed to the team differently. That was the biggest difference, I think, in this game for this team, because it was infectious. Risacher diving for balls. I mean, Risacher is probably one of the most least emotional people you've seen so far for this team. And he had a couple big defensive plays. He had one block that they called a foul. And he was pissed. I've never seen Risacher like that. Nobody see Risacher act like that. And Quinn loved it. I mean, Quinn talked about it after the game. He kind of smirked when he talked about it. I know Quinn loved it. Seeing that from him, he said after the game, he's like, he's pissed off. He was pissed off. And Risacher's energy and just effort. And you saw it in the third quarter too. He was already doing that in the third quarter. But that fourth quarter, it just really, I think, hit the team. And it raised the level of everyone. It got the crowd involved and engaged. And then the Hawks just felt like this wave of momentum came. and it just overwhelmed Chicago. And I said this win was so important for Quinn because he has tried so hard to change the culture in Atlanta. Like people really don't understand what Quinn was tasked with doing when he got this team. There was a culture problem, an identity problem. The Hawks didn't have an identity. I've said this before in previous years. The Hawks didn't have an identity. You knew it was Trae Young, but it was like outside of that, what are the Hawks known for? I mean, you could say they're an offensive team, but like even that, I was just like, eh. And these types of victories make players believe in what you've preached and believe in what you've teached and believe in what you're trying to coach and trying to instill into this player. Quinn has mentioned this season about trying to establish an identity. Trae Young has mentioned, especially defensively, that that's something that could carry them far, especially if they make the postseason. And, you know, we always hear about Landry Fields and them talk about Hawks DNA. Hawks DNA. What is Hawks DNA? And I feel like tonight was a prime example of that. Risacher is what they consider a Hawks DNA type of player. Regardless if he's not scoring, regardless if he's not doing the big stat that everybody wants to see from him, he will do everything else to try to help this team win. And that earned him minutes down the stretch of the game. And, you know, just his tenacity defensively, like I said, going for loose balls, going for blocks, getting emotional, showing emotion. It's just something you can feed off of, and the team fed off of it. And it helped. You know, and then you got your guys like Jalen Johnson. Huge night for Jalen Johnson. I mean, he was the mismatch in this game for the Hawks. They had the advantage of Jalen Johnson, and he took advantage of his mismatch, and he was a very big part of why they won this game. Trae Young getting some shots going in the fourth quarter. I've said Trae Young likes to pick his spots. He's kind of done this recently where he'll have like a quarter or a part of a quarter where he'll kind of like be a little bit more offensively aggressive, hit a few shots, keep the Hawks afloat, you know, pick his spots, right? And it just was incredible when they needed him to be. And Dyson hitting big shots, playing great defense, just everybody contributing. Because let me give you all a stat line. This was I took this picture during 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter when the Hawks had this game won. This was the Hawks' fourth quarter. This is the stat line for the team in the fourth quarter. 13 rebounds, 10 assists, 15 of 25 from the field, 5 of 13 from 3, 13 of 15 from the free throw line, and 0 turnovers, which is huge. Which, I mean, the Bulls didn't really turn the Hawks over a ton tonight in terms of what they've been turning it over the last few games. They only had 12, which is actually low. So they weren't bad from that perspective. But to have 0 turnovers, basically the Hawks played a clean quarter of basketball. To make a comeback like you did tonight, you had to play a clean quarter of basketball. And the Hawks did that. They did that. And that competitiveness and that competitive spirit carried them. The Hawks' 50-point quarter tonight was only the second such fourth quarter in the NBA in the last 30 years. Right? I think that tells you how historic a 50-point quarter is, because we've seen 40-point quarters, and we obviously see high-point 30 quarters. That's usually what most teams do if they're having a really good quarter. But to get a 50-point fourth quarter is insane. That basically feels like you felt like you made every shot that you took in that quarter. And the team just basically, and the Bulls were overwhelmed. Hawks had a 32-7 run in the last 6 minutes of the game. Hawks actually outscored the Bulls 43-23 after Zachary Risacher got fired up on that foul call that Quinn challenged. And so you see the different types of runs at different points of the game and how the Hawks just play different. And lost in under this, too, was just another accomplishment for Trae Young. 11,000 career points. Second youngest player in NBA history to hit that behind LeBron James. So, I mean, the Hawks did a lot of great things tonight. Risacher in the second half tonight, 14 points, 3 of 6 from the field, 3 rebounds. Well, 3 of 6 from 3. 3 rebounds. And he had a 7 plus minus in the second half. So, obviously, like I mentioned before, a big impact on what they've done. Also, Trae Young has tied Stephon Marbury for the most 10 assist games all time. So, a lot of history, a lot of facts, a lot of just different things happened tonight for the Hawks for them to win. Overcoming a 21-point deficit and just leading them to a fantastic win, a win that really establishes a culture. These are the defining wins that do that tonight. So, huge victory for the Hawks, man, to come out there and come back against the Bulls, man, and do what they needed to do in this game against a team that has been a thorn in your side for a while. They have been a thorn in your side. You've struggled to beat this team, and to win this game was huge. Now the Hawks are back over 500. Let's go look into some of the numbers, too. Hawks shot 52% from the field, 38% from 3. Bulls were winning that by a lot. They make some threes late. Hawks, 34 free throw attempts tonight, made 32. Free throws have been an issue for this team at times this year, where they've missed some. I know the Bucks game, but the Bucks game in the Cup, people talked about we made a few more free throws. There have been some games where you're like, oh, we just made these free throws, we maybe wouldn't be in as close as a game, or we would have won that game. Tonight, the Hawks went 32 of 34. So they made their free throws tonight. Only 12 turnovers, 32 assists, 44 rebounds, 12 offensive boards, 5 blocks, 9 steals in the game. So, like I mentioned, everybody contributing to lead and really flare and start up the comeback that won the game for the Hawks tonight. So, really, really big to see that from a young team who we've seen all over the place at times this year. But for them to come back in this game and just be able to get this win is extremely impressive, and really proud of them. Really proud of them. And honestly, it's probably like second best game of the year for the Hawks, maybe first. I mean, at State Farm is definitely probably one of the most late games they've had this year. Maybe some of y'all were there tonight, so y'all can maybe tell me where y'all rank this game at in that regard. Hawks also 1 points off turnovers, 19 points to 13 points off turnovers for them. So that was big for them too, to be able to get back in the fast break and really create great opportunities, like especially when they created those turnovers in the fourth quarter to get back into the game. So big stuff there by the Hawks. But like I mentioned tonight, Jalen Johnson leading the charge for this team. 30 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists in the game. Just continues to grow, continues to show us that he is growing before our eyes, and that he is deserving of the contract, and that he is a guy who you see why the Hawks love Jalen Johnson. And like I said, people question Jalen. Oh, is he really a number 2 option? Is he really this, and this? And I'm like, guys, can we just let these guys grow? Can we just let him flourish? Can we just let him play basketball and then see what that ends up being, instead of trying to assume, well, there's a couple of games he didn't like take over, so I don't know if he can like be a number 2 option. Like, can we just chill out on let's let Jalen Johnson play basketball, and let's just see how the team continues to mesh and get better as the season goes on, and let's just let it breathe. Jalen Johnson, fantastic game from him tonight. Really, really, really good stuff from him in a game. Like I said, this was a game that he needed to take advantage of his matchup, and he did. And that was huge. He's one of 10 players this season to put up at least 30 points and 15 boards as well. He almost reached his career high in rebounds in this game. I think he's 17 on the year. He had 15, like I said. So cleaning up the glass, giving them offense, just doing everything, man. Jalen Johnson, what a guy. What a guy. Like I said, Trae Young, 27 points, 13 assists tonight. Really needed that offense late in that game, playmaking late in that game. He gave the Hawks exactly what they needed tonight. Like I said, 11,000 points tonight, 10th and 10 assist games tonight. He continues to make a lot of history in a Hawks uniform, and really just a big catalyst and also part of why they were able to help make that comeback late in that game, and really just did a good job. Like I said, playing a clean quarter of basketball in that fourth quarter. That was one of the biggest things I think that really helped the Hawks out tonight. And Trey playing that type of way was really huge. Dyson Daniels, 15 of 7. And the thing is tonight for Dyson, 3 of 5 from 3. I mean, he hit a big 3 during that run to get the Hawks back where they need to go. Dyson Daniels, man, was hitting 3-pointers tonight. That's something I think in the last few games he's struggled with a lot. It's just hitting the outside 3. He's been maybe giving you 1 a game. Hitting 3 tonight, I think, was big. Just to get it. Makes teams have to respect it. Makes teams have to defend it. And every time he does that, that just makes it help. It helps spacing when he's able to make that shot. So that was big for him to hit that tonight. Obviously, he had a tough matchup in Zach LaVine. I mean, Zach LaVine was on a heater tonight. He was almost unconscious tonight. He had a 37-point game, and people were just like, here we go, Zach LaVine, right? But he was able to, he kept battling. He kept battling against Zach LaVine out there. And they were able to get it done. I mean, he had the 3rd highest plus minus for starters tonight. And overall in the game for the Hawks. So even with that matchup and everything else he was doing, he still was a big positive for the Hawks when he was on the floor. Clint Capella tonight really didn't really do anything crazy tonight. Only 88 points, 4 rebounds tonight. Usually games against Vucevic, they're usually battles. Sometimes Clint will have a really good game against Vucevic. Vuce will have a really good game. Vuce had a better game tonight than him. But, obviously, again, with Okongwu not there, it kind of changes a little bit what they want to do in terms of the type of matchups. This may have been a game where you usually would have a Clint finish, which is fine. And he did. And he had a couple big alley hoops that Jalen Johnson found him on down the stretch of the game. But, Clint battling out there and doing what he can. Like I said, I already talked about Risacher, how he really came alive in that second half, really sparked the run, just the energy, the effort, the competitive fire, the emotion, all of that contributing to why the Hawks were able to make this comeback. Just knowing that, like I said, Risacher, if Risacher plays like this, the Hawks are going to be a much harder team to beat. The issue is just getting him to be consistent. That's why you still have seen people on social media talk about Risacher and say, even with the offensive struggles, I still really like him. I like his play. I like what he's doing. I like what he brings to the table, because they see it. It's like Risacher really is a guy. You really have to be a ball knower to understand Risacher's impact for this team. And obviously, again, we're still making projections. So there's no 100% answer that this is correct. But just understanding he just does so many other things well and can help you in so many different ways outside of just scoring the basketball. And so you kind of sit there and you're just kind of like, if we could just get X, Y, and Z, I'm good. Like, we don't need him to be this 20-point-a-game guy, even though it'd be fantastic if he was. But, like, you just need him to give him – you just need Risacher to give you some type of offense, give you something offensively. And then defend, rebound, disrupt, and do different things. And that in and of itself will be infectious and impact the team like it did tonight. So really big game for Risacher. Really encouraging to see him play like this tonight. DeAndre Hunter continues to play really, really well. 25 points tonight. Continues to be a big catalyst off the bench, especially right now when you don't have your 2 other big bench scorers in Bogey and Nance. I mean, not Nance, but Bogey and Okongwu. He's, continuing to be consistent and continues to play at a high level. And there's people who mention, maybe we should sell high on DeAndre Hunter. I've always said this. You make a trade, we better be getting someone better back. If you ain't getting someone better back, DeAndre Hunter, why are we making a trade? What are we doing? Because are we trying to make picks? Like what? Like no, DeAndre Hunter, bruh, playing like this, bruh. DeAndre Hunter, he's gonna stay a Hawk unless there's some offer they cannot refuse, or maybe there's a player that they really, really covet that becomes available before the trade deadline. Outside of that, DeAndre Hunter will be a Hawk. End of story. Because he has been huge for what they've done. 10 to 10 from the free throw line tonight. He's now up there with Trey and Bogey as the two best free throw shooters on this team. I mean, just a complete, and we've talked about it multiple times on the podcast, his evolution as a player this year and how he has taken another step and how that's been so big for the success of the Hawks. Nance tonight, 12 points tonight. Obviously, we know about his struggles defensively, but overall tonight, 12 points, 2 of 4 from 3, 5 of 9 from the field. Gave you something offensively. That's all you really need from him. And just continue to, fight out there, play well in the absence of Okongwu. I think Okongwu's out. It's going to be out against Miami. I'm assuming he'll be out against Toronto in the back-to-back. And then the West Coast road trip that starts will be when we may see Okongwu back for the team. I expect him to be on that trip and be back during that trip, if not that first game. Garrison Matthews tonight kind of came back to earth, 5 points, 1 of 7 from 3. And listen, I saw the tweets, man. Some of y'all out here talk about, do we need to trade Bogey? Is it over for Bogdanovich because Garrison Matthews hit like 7 threes? And this is what I say. Calm down. We know Garrison Matthews can hit threes. But that does not mean that now all of a sudden he's better than Bogey Bogdanovich. Y'all, it's so weird with you guys sometimes for the people who say it. Not like you guys specifically who are ball knowers. But like, y'all are so ready to trade a guy for another guy. And I'm like, okay, well, if we trade Bogey and Garrison moves up, then who do we have around Garrison if he's hurt? We don't got nobody. And y'all are just ruining the death just because y'all feel like, well, what's the point of keeping Bogey if Garrison Matthews can hit 7 threes? I'm like, Bogey can do the same thing. The thing is, Bogey can do more than Garrison Matthews, but and then if you're not a ball knower, you won't understand that. like literally all they ask Garrison to do is just hit threes, bro. Just shoot threes. That's all we want you to do. We don't want you to do, I mean, if you can do other things, great. But like, that's not like, we only specifically ask him to shoot threes. Bogey, they actually ask him, hey, run a little bit of offense. Hey, set some picks. Hey, come off screens. Hey, cut to the rim. Hey, help Trey with ball pressure. And we actually ask Bogey to do a lot more because he can. So like, again, great that Garrison gives us these games at times. But literally, Bogey does not need to be traded because Garrison Matthews has a big 3-point shooting game. So we just need to calm down on that. And then Vic Krejci tonight, 3 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists. Listen, I was just happy he made a 3 tonight, man. Like I said, I've always said, Vic Krejci got to give you something offensively, man. That's the biggest thing I've always said with that backup point guard position. Got to get something offensively. It'll help big time if we can. So, yeah, that was the game tonight. Heck of a roller coaster, heck of a win. State Farm was rocking. City Edition uniforms. I believe the Hawks are now 3-1 in those uniforms. They're 3-1 in the City Edition uniforms tonight. So it seems like the City Edition uniforms have some pretty good luck for this team. But yeah, across the board, energy, competitiveness were the story of this game. Hawks having an historic fourth quarter, winning the fourth quarter 50-25 over the Chicago Bulls to complete a 21-point comeback and get the game, get over 500. And now they await their other team that's pesky and is under their skin that we haven't played all season yet till now, the Miami Heat, who actually just hit a game winner against the Orlando Magic in their previous game, which was tonight as I'm recording this. And so both teams are coming into that game. Obviously, we know how those battles go between the Heat and the Hawks. And I'm going to be interested to see how this version of the Hawks team plays against Miami. Obviously, we don't know if Jimmy Butler's going to be in that game. He hasn't played in the last couple of games. So I don't know if Jimmy Butler's going to be back. But, Tyler Hero's had a really good year. Bam, we know what he can do. Terry Rozier, Alec Burks. They got some guys out there. So Hawks got to be ready to play. That's the first of a back-to-back. Then they play Toronto on Sunday. So, and I believe that will complete the homestand that they have. Let me make sure that Toronto game's at home. No, Toronto game's in Toronto. So they complete their homestand Saturday, and then they fly to Canada for their homestand. I mean, not for their homestand, but to play Toronto in Toronto. And then they fly out to the West Coast. Hawks are going to have 6. Like, Hawks are not going to be playing at home for one. After the Heat game, they will have 6 road games. Hawks will be on the road for 6 games. And that will start December 29th. Their last road game is January 9th. So they're going to not be back at home for a long time once that happens. Going to Toronto. Now, luckily, this is a West Coast trip, so you're going from Denver to LA. You're staying in LA. Then you go to Utah. Then you go to Phoenix. So they're relatively stayed away at that point, but like outside of the Denver game, but like on the Lakers. But I mean, for the most part, and also, you know what that means, guys? We're going to have late basketball games. Because, I mean, Nuggets game 9 o'clock, Lakers game 10:30, Clippers game 10:30, Jazz game 9 o'clock, Suns game 9 o'clock. A lot of late games are going to be going on. So you're going to be seeing Believe in Hawks coming out really, really late. I'm going to be really, really tired at work, but that's just part of it because I love covering this team and I love getting this content out to you guys. So I appreciate for all y'all support that y'all give me for letting me be a part of y'all days and listening to me and my takes on our Atlanta Hawks. But I think that's all I got for you guys tonight. Hawks, like I said, completing a great comeback tonight. Getting back on the winning track again. Trying to build a bit of a streak. Beat the Heat, get to 3. Hey, man, let's try to go for it, man. But I appreciate you guys. Obviously, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Leave a rating. Leave a review for audio listeners. Follow me on Twitter, Bryce 2K. Appreciate all y'all. It's your boy, Bryce Lewis. We'll see you next time.